Let's kind of talk about the nuts and bolts a little bit, because I know I haven't ever done a Zoom hearing. I've done some remote depositions, and I think probably a lot of lawyers are like that. I guess the most important question to start with is, do we all have to stand up at the beginning, or can I just wear like my suit on top and my normal non-work attire and slippers at my desk, without the judge seeing?
I wanted to interject there because that was a question I was curious about the answer to also. What is the dress code for a Zoom hearing in your court?
So I still wear my robe because I want the clients to know that I'm a real judge. And sometimes I can look young, and when the clients are older than me and I'm sitting there in a t-shirt, they might not feel the appropriate sense of legitimacy of the court. So I will wear a robe. I will look professional. I have my courtroom as my background just to remind everyone this is still real court. But I don't know if you saw the order that I published on Twitter that said I'm suspending the business dress code. I don't notice what people wear, and I wouldn't notice if you were wearing a t-shirt. I don't care in my court. Now, Judge Ferguson, speaking of, and he's a good judge friend to me because we are alike in our love of technology, but we differ on a lot of things. So he's fun to discuss things with. But he was saying that he expects a professional dress code because, again, it's already hard enough to believe that this is real court and has real consequences. And so if we're all just lounging around on the couch in our t-shirt, maybe it's extra hard to remember, wait, this is real court. So I can see it both ways, but it's hard enough to work from home and like homeschool your children and do court, and like, I don't care. As long as you're there and we can hear you, we'll get it done.
So basically check with the judge before you show up as to what you need to have on.
Right.
Or maybe some judges will post temporary guidelines for how to conduct.
So this is a good question, and this is a really hard part. A lot of judges were asking me, okay, are you publishing like Zoom procedures? Are you publishing written procedures? And you were just mentioning publishing written dress code procedures. But the other thing about all of this happening is that lawyers who have cases in multiple counties, now you're trying to remember 20 different judges, and who wants the exhibits emailed a business day before the hearing, and who wants them emailed 5 p.m. before the hearing, and who has a dress code and who doesn't. And so probably the biggest frustration I can imagine coming out of this is just a burden on the lawyers to keep track of all those policies. So I have erred on the side of not having policies and just being flexible, because I don't want to put out 5 more pages of written instructions that now everyone has to remember and we have to remember. And so I understand wanting to give people guidance and help and teach, which is great. And I also don't want to contribute to the burden of having to remember 20 sets of local rules.
I don't know that it rises to the level of an emergency order, but maybe the Supreme Court will offer some guidance on this.
You guys need lawyer robes.
That's right. With the wigs and everything, then I don't even have to fix my hair. You mentioned emailing exhibits. That was kind of one of the questions I had, and I think the appellate lawyers are going to be interested in. What is the way you kind of make a record in your court when you normally would have to hand the stuff to the court reporter and go through that whole process? Now that step is cut out.
Yes. So what we are doing is my court reporter, my court coordinator, and I are all on a Dropbox. And so what we're telling people is email your exhibits to the court coordinator, copying both sides at least an hour or 2 before your hearing. And that's so she has time to make sure she sees your email and saves it. So she will save all the exhibits to the Dropbox that my court reporter and I have access to. And so we ask that people name the files descriptively. So Exhibit M1, mother's requested relief. Exhibit M2, photos. Exhibit M3, the doctor records, whatever they are. And then during the hearing, I have them in the Dropbox. So some courts, so in Zoom, you can either only the meeting organizer can share the screen, or you can allow anyone to share screens. I allow anyone to share screens. So if you are the lawyer and you're getting ready to offer your exhibit number 2, then you would open up your PDF. In Zoom, you would go to share screen. You would select that PDF open window, and your exhibit would be published. Again, since we're not doing jury stuff, I'm presumed to consider relevant evidence and not consider inadmissible evidence. So I got to look at all the exhibits anyway to decide if they come in or not. So there's no real concern about publishing something prematurely. But either the lawyer can publish the exhibit, or they can say, Judge, can you open M2 and I'll open it. So at that point, then I'll either say it's admitted or it's not. And now the court reporter has it and she can do whatever she needs to do at her end. So as long as the file name is titled what it is and we can find it, then she can figure out what she needs to do. Some people are also putting a little exhibit sticker stamp on their PDF. And it's cute too. We're not being overly formalistic about things because I know, we're just trying to, if you can at least get there with your exhibits, we're going to figure out how to make it work.
Have you done a trial yet, or are you just kind of doing hearings right now, or both?
So we'll do anything that you can get done in an hour. So we did a short trial. It was 2 self-represented litigants, and it was issues that we could get done in an hour. For the most part, though, what we are doing is interim hearings. So emergency hearings, TROs, things of that nature. But now that we have our Zoom system going, my court coordinator is trying to honor existing settings that we have and basically say, if you can get this done in an hour, we'll go.
In proceedings where, particularly in your type of law where credibility becomes really important, do you find that you look at different things now on Zoom than you might have normally?
So the interesting thing about family law is that unlike other types of law, we're not looking at whether one particular thing happened or didn't happen on that particular day. Usually most things are an ongoing pattern of behavior. And you would be surprised to see how many times many of the facts aren't uncontested. The parties will fight about what they mean or the significance of them, but largely, yes, I called her that, and yes, I went there and did that. Everybody's on the same page with that. We just argue about who wins or what it means. So I think that it is many times easier to assess credibility in those types of litigation because we're not looking at one particular incident and whether it happened exactly that way or not. So I haven't noticed any special challenges with determining credibility. Now, if we had a hearing that involved a lot of documentary exhibits, that would be tough to do on Zoom. But for the most part, that's not what we're hearing. So so far, it hasn't been negatively different from an ordinary day in court as far as working with the witnesses. What I will say, it's been really hard. The clients have, and the lawyers, everybody is having trouble doing Zoom. We had a hearing and this precious man, English was his second language and he was an older gentleman. And so he would pull back when his lawyer was asking him a question. And then when he would go to answer the question, he was clearly holding his phone up to his ear because anytime he was talking, all we were his ear. And then he'd pull back and listen to his lawyer and then he'd answer the question again. So I was like, bless his heart, we're going to get through this together. It's going to be fine.
Well, we're laughing.
For those of you that couldn't see, we got to see close-ups of Judge Miskel's ear right in the camera every time.
Yeah.
That doesn't come across on the podcast, but it's a pretty funny image.
Oh, I think we're going to have to post this on YouTube. It's worth a laugh right there. That's great.